Good evening, everyone, and welcome to everyone that's here. I want to make sure that everyone that wants to be in the council chamber is able to get in. It looks like everyone's comfortable. For those at the door, if there's people that come in, there's a lot of standing room left over here if you just direct them that way. And also room 100, there's a taped version there. So people are welcome to be there as well. So thank you for coming. I'm going to go over the agenda in just a minute. Just before we start the agenda for today's this evening's meeting, Council has a quarter of revision for 3 properties that we have to go through. It won't take very long, but that's what we'll do first, and then I'll go over the agenda and the process. So I would like to start by calling to order quarter of revision for 73rd Avenue Water Main Extension parcel tax. I know that all of Council has done the administration of oaths. So the quarter of revision for 73 Avenue Water Main Extension parcel tax appeals. Could I ask Chief Administrative Officer, has there been any appeals for this property?
None, Your Worship.
Okay. Could I have a motion from a councillor to authenticize this 2019 73rd Avenue Water Main Extension parcel tax assessment? Councillor Lavery, second Councillor Eliason. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this in the audience? Any councillor like to comment? All those in favor? It passes. Second item is the quarter revision transportation parcel tax. I'd like to call that meeting to order. We have an administration of oaths. So it's a quarter revision for transportation parcel tax appeals. Have there been any appeals, Administrative Officer?
No, there have not.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to appeal their parcel tax? Thank you. So I accept the motion to authenticize the 2019 transportation parcel tax assessment roll. Councillor Cannon, second Councillor Flynn. Any discussion by council? All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you for moving adjournment. Councillor Eliason, second to adjournment. Councillor Cannon, all those in favor? Okay, our third quarter of revision is to the water sewer frontage tax. I'd like to call that meeting to order. We have had administration of oaths. It's appeals for the quarter of revision for water and sewer. Have there been any appeals, Administrative Officer, for water and sewer frontage tax?
There have not.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to appeal their water and sewer frontage tax? Thank you. I would accept a motion to authenticize that roll. Mover, please. Councillor Wallis-Richmond, second Councillor Lindgren. Any comments from council? All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Cannon, second Councillor Flynn. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much, audience, for your willingness to pay your taxes without appealing. Water and sewer is the best deal in town. All right, so welcome to you all. I know there was some agendas out the front of this evening's meeting, so I'd just like to talk you through it so everybody knows the process. First of all, we do have an RS loop here in the council chamber, and so if you have a hearing aid that can code into the RS loop, please do, and that'll allow you to hear better. For councillors, please make sure we speak clearly into the microphones this evening. And if you have an opportunity to speak, if presenters also speak clearly into the microphone, it'll allow everyone to be able to hear. So our agenda this evening is as follows. We have 3 statutory public hearings. Following the 3 public statutory hearings, I'll close each hearing as we do them. And then council will reconsider the bylaws associated with each of those hearings. So once we do the hearing, I'll close it. We'll go to the second hearing, hear from people, we'll close it. Third one, hear from people, we'll close it. Then council will reconsider the bylaws 1, 2, and 3. We also have 2 variance hearings this evening, and those are at the end of the agenda. For variance hearings, we consider the bylaw right after the hearing, each one individually. So there's 2 of those. So that's the process that we will follow this evening. Council, do you have any questions about the process? Is there any disclosure of interest? Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Worship. For item 23.2, the development variance permit application for the Browns, I will step out because the Browns are clients of my business. So I will not be involved and get to go home a few minutes earlier than everybody else.
Okay, that's 23.2. Thank you, Councillor Flynn. Any other disclosure of interest? Okay, hearing none, we'll introduce the first statutory hearing, and I have an opening statement to read to you. It's a bit lengthy, but it's legally I have to read it, and there's important information. So this public hearing for bylaws number 4309, 4310, and 4311 is convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, anyone who believes their interest in property is affected by these matters will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions to Council. If you wish to speak concerning the proposed bylaws, please approach Council and begin your presentation by clearly stating your name and residential address, and then our Secretary can write them down. The function of Council this evening is to receive the views of the public and to ask questions regarding submissions. It is not Council's job to debate the merits of the proposal with individuals. The background documents related to the bylaws and written submissions that have been received by the City are available for inspection by the public and are located in the binders on the table back by the entry doors. Council has received all of those written submissions. All written submissions will be retained by the corporate officer for review by Council and by members of the public. To ensure everyone a reasonable opportunity to be heard, the following rules of procedure have been established. Please direct all submissions to the Chair. I will then redirect questions to the correct staff person as appropriate. Following introduction of the bylaws, City staff, the floor will be open for presentations, starting with the applicant and followed by other interested parties in the order in which the Chair recognizes them. Presentations will not be limited unless the submission is not relevant to the proposed bylaw. There will be 3 calls for submissions prior to the closing of this hearing. And I'll make sure I don't close the hearing until everyone that wants to speak has a chance. I ask that everyone respect the views of others and try to keep your presentations as concise as possible. Legislation does not permit Council to hear or receive submissions from the public after the hearing is closed. I would ask the Director of Development Services to now explain the first proposal, bylaw number 4309.
Thank you, Worship. Bylaw 4309 proposes to rezone lots 1 and 2, Section 6, Township 21, Range 9, west of the 6th Meridian, Kamloops District, Yale District, Plan 3538, from R4 medium density residential to R6 mobile home park zone. The 2 properties are addressed at 4400 and 4600 Canoe Beach Drive Northeast, east of Park Hill Road on the south side of Canoe Beach Drive. The present use on the subject properties is vacant. Both are vacant. The proposed use is 60 mobile homes. The owner is Canoe Beach Properties Limited and numbered company 0753219 BC Limited, and the applicant is Kerry Tarno. And the reference application file number is Zone 1140.
Thank you very much. I would have a first call and ask if the applicant would like to present first. Please come forward.
My name is Kerry, 240 24th Street Northeast. I'm here to speak about rezoning 4400 and 4600 Canoe Beach Drive to R6. "30 years ago, my family moved to Salmon Arm because they saw the potential this town held to create a wonderful life. We're a community that supports the health and well-being of seniors in retirement while also providing a safe and desirable place to raise a family. This community's overwhelming support of family-run businesses such as our own has allowed multiple generations of our family to continue to build a life in the Shuswap. This is what makes Salmon Arm so desirable. The opportunity for people to work, put down roots, work, and retire within our community. Unfortunately, home prices have made that dream unattainable for many. How many of your friends, co-workers, or kids have left our community in search of higher pay or more affordable housing, with the hopes of returning in 10 years when they can afford to spend $500,000 or more on a home? These individuals settle into other communities and we lose the opportunity to keep our families here. Last week I watched the All Candidates Forum on YouTube and reviewed the campaign Q&As on the Observer's website. The lack of affordable housing was cited by multiple councillors as being the most pressing issue facing Salmon Arm. The residents of Salmon Arm elected our council based on the views put forth in their campaign, and I'm standing here today with a solution. We're a local company with a proven track record that uses local tradespeople. Over the last 9 months, we have worked with the city staff to understand the needs and requirements of the city from a planning perspective. We're ready to build 45th Street. We're ready to upgrade Canoe Beach Drive. We're ready to pay over $570,000 in DCCs, and we're ready to start this year. If this rezoning gets denied, there is nothing to guarantee someone will purchase this property. It may sit empty for another 50 years. If someone does purchase it, there is no guarantee that 45th Street will get built, and there is no guarantee that they will attempt a project that addresses our affordable housing crisis. Everyone here spoke in favor of affordable housing. I'm trying to provide 60 new homes at an affordable price. Based on the average price of a home for sale in December 2018 and the median income in Salmon Arm of $62,000 per year, a family has to spend 49% of their income to be able to afford a home. The Credit Council of Canada suggests that no more than 35% of household income be allocated towards housing. With the new mortgage stress test, rising interest rates, and the price increases we've seen over the last few years, it can be difficult for a hardworking family to qualify for a decent family home. Lessening the financial stress an unaffordable house puts on a family opens up the opportunity for them to put more money directly back into their quality of life and into our community. Freeing up money in a household's budget can make the difference between being able to enroll kids in hockey, start a small business, or being able to afford to shop local. Renting in Salmon Arm is also very difficult. According to CMHC, Salmon Arm has a vacancy rate of under 1%. A one-bedroom basement suite rents for around $1,000, and if you're looking for a family, it's tough to find many options under $2,000. Then, when you find something you like and can afford, you can be up against 30 to 40 other applicants. It's difficult for young families and people on a fixed income or pension to find and afford somewhere to live. So, are we as a community building more affordable options? There are a lot of new developments currently underway or planned for Salmon Arm suitable for families. They all have their own benefits and attract a different demographic of our population. I've broken down the cost to own the most affordable option currently available in each new development. Hillcrest Place is a townhouse development where a family can own a home starting at $399,000 for a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom home. Hillcrest Muse is a brand new development that received rezoning approval 2 weeks ago. Single-family, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes will be priced around $400,000. Uptown Village is a townhouse development under construction consisting of 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom units starting at $442,900. Shoreline Tower is a condo development that is currently pre-selling units. A 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit in the tower is $469,000. Foothills Estates is a new subdivision offering single-family, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes on R8 lots with the option to build a secondary suite for $35,000. They're starting at $489,000 without the suite. Hillcrest Heights currently has a single-family, 3-bedroom, 4-bathroom home with space to add a suite for $589,000. Byers View offers some of the best views in Salmon Arm. There is currently a single-family, 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom home listed for $629,000. In our development, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom home will start at $125,000, and we have larger homes available for people who need more space, still at a very affordable price. We have an affordable housing problem. However, new single-family homes being built are not addressing the issue. $400,000 to $629,000 is not affordable or accessible for a lot of the residents in Salmon Arm. During the November 28th, 2017 meeting of the Social Impact Advisory Committee, it was recommended that Council strike a housing task force to engage more people in the important discussion of affordable housing, and in doing so, identify and prepare for opportunities. At the regular Council meeting of December 11, 2017, Council received the Social Impact Advisory Committee's recommendation and adopted a resolution acknowledging that housing is a key component of a healthy community and that affordable housing is at a critical point. Here are 5 takeaways from the Housing Task Force recommendations that apply to tonight's rezoning application. Number 1, reviewing development cost charges and site servicing charges for targeted projects. 2, prioritizing incentives along the housing continuum. 3, considering permissive tax exemptions for targeted needs on the housing continuum. 4, given the findings of the HTF and recognizing that a full range of housing options that is accessible and affordable to all residents is critical to the social and economic development of Salmon Arm and region, and significant opportunities now exist to develop a Made in Salmon Arm solution. 5, allocate $60,000 in the 2019 budget to retain a consultant. The affordable end of Salmon Arm's housing spectrum is extremely underserviced. New homes are being built with a price tag of $400,000 or more. We feel our proposed development should fall under a targeted project, and we know it is one that is accessible and affordable. A consultant has not been retained yet to assess our affordable housing problem. However, Cityscapes Consulting was hired by the City of Fernie in 2017 to do an affordable housing strategy, and the recommendations are worth looking at. From the Cityscapes report, it is recommended that an additional policy be introduced into the OCP to encourage factory-built housing in all low-density areas. Factory-built housing is an umbrella term used to describe homes that are substantially constructed in a factory and often referred to as off-site construction in contrast to homes that were constructed on-site. These homes are of high quality and are built to last as long as other forms of ground-oriented housing. The industry has come a very long way from the days of mobile homes when they were constructed under much less stringent standards than the manufactured and modular homes of today. They are generally more affordable than site-built housing. Cityscapes Consulting recommended manufactured homes as a solution to the affordable housing problem in Fernie, and even though Salmon Arm hasn't retained our own consultant yet, we believe it is a solution here as well. We proved the need and demand for it when 33 homes sold in 2.5 years in our last development. This is a project we worked on from 2014 to 2017 and a perfect example of what a modern manufactured home community should look like. We designed the exterior of the homes and landscape all lots to ensure the development is aesthetically pleasing. When we took on that project, the land was already zoned R6 and there was one current resident. We had to work with the existing lot layout, but were still able to revive it into a thriving community of around 70 residents and 33 homes. The homes sold into the development ranged in price from $103,000 to $210,000, with the average price being around $165,000. There is a sense of pride throughout the community. We as a company are very proud of the end result. Since beginning this process, there has been a lot of incorrect information shared online. One thing that stands out the most was people saying a manufactured home is going to go down in value or owners aren't building equity. I'm going to share some real-life examples with you from our recent R6 development that tell a different story. Example 1. Customer bought from us May 2015, sold April 2018, profit $22,061. Price appreciation, 17%. Example 2. Customer bought from us June 2017, sold December 2018, profit $24,040. Price appreciation, 21%. Example 3. Customer bought from us October 2016, sold August 2018, profit $48,000. Price appreciation, 26%. Example 4. Customer bought July 2014, sold July 2018, Profit $67,240. Price appreciation 65%. The question we should be asking as a community is not will these homes depreciate? The question we need to be asking is why did they appreciate so much? The answer is simple. This is a style of ownership that a lot of people are looking for in today's housing market because it's accessible and affordable. The girl that had 65% appreciation on her house was the second house into the development. She was able to sell her house for $67,240 more than she bought it for. She had a growing family, so took the money she made and used it for a down payment on a larger home. It is extremely hard to save $67,240 in 4 years. And that doesn't include the principal paid down on her mortgage. She was able to do that by owning a home that she could afford with a monthly cost that was comparable to renting a basement suite. Why wouldn't we as a community want to see 60 more families have the same opportunity? Factory-built homes have 2x6 walls, R51 attic insulation, and meet Energy Star efficiency standards. Building in a factory setting with an efficient assembly line, we're able to provide homes at a far lower price. Our proposed development will bring affordable housing options to the underserviced, affordable end of the housing spectrum. In our proposed development, one of the most affordable homes will be a 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom home for $125,000. The down payment required for that home would be only $6,250, and the total monthly cost, including pad rent and property taxes, would be around $1,100. Imagine being able to own a home for $1,100 per month. That is comparable to renting a 1-bedroom basement suite. This option is perfect for someone making the transition from renting to owning or retirees looking to downsize. On the right side of your screen is a townhouse for sale in Salmon Arm. It isn't brand new, but it has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, currently listed at $349,000. On the left is one of our 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes with a price of $180,000. Let's start with the townhouse. When you take the mortgage, property taxes, and strata fees, the monthly cost of ownership is $2,138, and that doesn't take into account insurance, utilities, or maintenance. If you're trying to stay within the Credit Council of Canada's guidelines of 35%, you would need a household income of $73,300. The cost to own our 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot home with mortgage, property taxes, and pad rent included is $1,388 per month. To be within the Credit Council's guidelines for this home, a household income of only $47,600 is needed. A household consisting of 2 adults working full-time minimum wage jobs brings in $50,000 per year, making this an affordable and accessible option. Our industry got a bad reputation from poor quality homes that were built in the 70s and 80s, causing local municipalities to restrict manufactured home park zoning and developers to reject factory-built options. Cityscapes Consulting put it best. These homes are of high quality and are built to last as long as other forms of ground-oriented housing. The industry has come a very long way from the days of mobile homes. The thing is, times have changed. If we really want to be able to make home ownership more affordable, we have to be willing to change as well. The manufactured home park bylaw hasn't been updated since 1982, so we have had to ask for a few variances to make this into a viable modern development. Everyone is talking about affordable housing, looking for answers, and trying to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes the best solution is tweaking an existing idea to solve a new problem. Our proposed community is close to the beach, parks, playgrounds, and baseball field. It's walking distance to the community store and serviced by local transit to downtown. Most of the surrounding homes are also manufactured homes that were built in the 90s. With the development of our proposed community comes a lot of benefits to the residents of Canoe and the city of Salmon Arm. We'll be widening Canoe Beach Drive and starting the boulevard and multi-use path that will provide a safer way for the kids of Canoe to get down to the ball field in Canoe Beach during the summer. We will also be completing 45th Street, an important connection for the city between Canoe Beach Drive and Lakeside Pines. Under R4 zoning, the property is sat on the market for over a decade because the cost of infrastructure and land upgrades make it uneconomical to develop. The current zoning also restricts our ability to provide affordable housing to Salmon Arm because the homeowner must be able to purchase the land, which adds $125,000 or more to the final price tag and doubles the down payment required. Under R6 zoning, people would be able to own the home while renting the lot, which reduces the price and barriers to ownership. The rezoning of the property to a manufactured home community allows the property to become economical to develop as a long-term investment property. Salmon Arm is an amazing city to live in. Rezoning 4400 and 4600 Canoe Beach Drive to R6 would be a big step towards making it more affordable. We have not advertised this development, but word has obviously gotten around that there's potentially affordable homes being built in Salmon Arm. Without it even being approved or advertised, I have 9 families who want to purchase a home if this goes through. I've informed them from the beginning that this isn't a sure thing, but some of them have been meeting with mortgage brokers and even offered deposits. Let's meet a few of the folks who are looking for affordable homes. This is Alex and Olivia. Riley couldn't be in the picture because he was working. They're a hard-working local family that is looking to buy their first home. They've been looking for about a year and a half and even considered buying out in Anglemont to keep it affordable. This will be a way better fit for their family because they both work in Salmon Arm. This is the Sorensen family. They have been considering a move to Salmon Arm from Alberta for a few years to be closer to family. They were looking at a home in our last development, but were waiting until Valerie got a job before making the commitment. When Valerie got a job with the school district, all the lots were full. They're now ready to make the move and hoping our affordable option will be approved. This is Mike and Jen. They're a retired couple currently living in Sorrento but looking to move into town. They're looking for an affordable option. This is Dylan, Thea, and Raven. They're a hardworking family that is looking for their first home. They've been trying to transition from renting to owning for about a year. This is an affordable option for them. This is Bob and Linda. Bob recently had a stroke, so they're looking to move into town and downsize from their current home in Sorrento. They're looking for an affordable option. This is Jaden, Dan, and family. They have a busy schedule, so we couldn't connect to get a picture with our sign, but they're a local family looking for an affordable home. This is Marley. She is currently finishing her studies to be a pharmacy tech and will be looking to purchase her first home when she's done. Our development works for her because it will be affordable and comparable to what she would otherwise be paying in rent. Tomorrow, I'm going to be calling everyone in these pictures, plus 2 more that didn't feel comfortable being in the presentation. I'm either going to be delivering good news or letting them know that our proposal wasn't passed and they'll have to wait and hope someone else tries to bring affordable housing to this community. Last week, we received a lot of feedback from council, and in the days leading up to tonight's public hearing, even more feedback from the residents of Canoe. We've been listening. Sunday morning, we met with our business partners and have decided to upgrade Canoe Beach Drive along the entire length of both properties to the full standard, and will no longer be requesting that specific variance. The most pressing issue facing Salmon Arm is housing affordability. We're ready to build 60 brand new homes in our community. We're ready to upgrade Canoe Beach Drive to the full road standard along both properties. We're ready to build 45th Street, and we're ready to start right now. All we need is council's approval.
Great, thank you, Kerry. Is there any questions from council for Kerry at this time? Councillor Wallace-Richmond.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thank you, Kerry, for the presentation. I think I asked this in a previous meeting, but I can't remember the answer. Would the mobile home park allow for rentals?
No.
No, okay, so you couldn't buy one and rent it out, okay. So then the same would apply to short-term rentals?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace-Richmond. Any other questions at this time? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. So I'll call for a first time from those in the audience. If you'd like to speak, just come forward. Crystal, please come forward and give us your name and residential address.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Crystal Burgess and I reside at 7030 50th Street Northeast. I'd like to offer my sincere appreciation for the opportunity to speak on behalf of over 220 members of Canoe who share common views of our needs, values, and vision for the future. The question we've recently been posed with is simple. Are we in favor of a zoning change so that the property on Canoe Beach Drive can be developed to an R6 mobile home park? Determining the answer is much more difficult, however, as there are many factors at play. Like all strong communities do when faced with some type of adversity, we banded together. We've reached out and searched for answers. The past 3 weeks have seen countless phone calls and emails, online exchanges and discussions over coffee. There have been a few tears, more hugs. We've also had 3 formal community meetings and hundreds of informal ones on our streets, in our store, while checking the mail and out walking our dogs. With open minds and in search for real data and not just assumptions, we asked 4 very important questions. Will it best fill the need? Will it bring affordable housing? Will it provide critical elements of safety and connectivity? And will it be a progressive, forward-thinking development that our community wants? In short, the answer to that is no. Tonight, Dina Forsyth, Brian Browning, Carmen Cron, myself, as well as others, I'm sure, will be speaking to these 4 factors and why over 25% of the adults in our community are not in favor of this rezoning application. The issue at the core of this proposal is density. Changing the property to an R6 designation is not suitable for several reasons. The first is that higher density R4 zoning expands the tax base. Canoe is a fast-growing community, and it's essential that we have a substantial base that can provide for infrastructure and service upgrades. When you sacrifice density, you are throwing away dollars, and not just a few dollars. A full 140-unit R4 development versus a full R6 60-unit mobile home park provides a substantially higher revenue to the city. After speaking with BC Assessments and City of Salmon Arm staff, we found that even based on very nominal house prices, $150,000 for a mobile and $245,000 for a townhome, the city would be looking at $140,000 more tax dollars per year with the R4 development. Those numbers are something to definitely consider. An R6 zoning change would now have a permanent impact on the city coffers and will restrict the money that is so desperately needed for growth. Another issue is that higher density provides an opportunity to serve a broader spectrum of housing needs. This parcel of property can accommodate rental units, subsidized housing, co-ops, townhouses, and much more. We need homes for all demographics, and R4 is the best possible solution to the housing needs that we are facing. As seen just a few weeks ago in Hillcrest, the city recognizes that density is essential to filling the housing need. Unlike in Hillcrest, though, our residents desire R4 and we're ready for it. We need a broader supply of homes and not just more that are being marketed as affordable. It also needs to be noted that the city cannot mandate the price of the homes that would be going into this development. We are left with zero control over what will end up on the property. As Carrie stated to council in a previous meeting, if a client wanted more yard, they would be able to not have a double wide, go for a single wide, and that would solve their yard issue. So really anything goes. The flip side of that is that if the buyer wanted to purchase the very highest end model, that could happen as well. I'm a photographer and a business owner, and while I have less expensive photo options for my clients, my goal is always to sell the highest package as it makes the most business sense. I'm sure it would be the same for them. This property is desirable and without regulations could be snapped up by people wanting to spend more money. So this business model would provide zero accountability to fulfill this affordable housing promise. Higher density will also mean that more families are in the area, which is a good thing, and will help the doors of North Canoe Elementary stay open and will provide additional business for our local businesses. But more money means more services are needed. More services cost more money. More money means that we need a bigger tax base, and a bigger tax base comes from what? Higher density. From here, I'll pass it along to Dina Forsyth, who will speak to the illusion of affordability. But before I do, I implore council to look at the long-term repercussions of this development on our up-and-coming community. Many of you know a part of my story. Prior to December 2018, my family and I lived in a fifth wheel for 857 days while we renovated a teardown in Canoe. My youngest was 5 weeks old and my oldest was 2. We made this sacrifice so that we could own real property and build real equity. As a Salmon Arm resident for the better part of 39 years, I wanted a home to grow and stay and not a temporary asset that could be depreciating. Well, we could have fixed our home fast. We could have saved a buck here or there. We chose to take a long-term vision for our family, and we did the job right. With the help of our community, our home got built. Jackson from Canoe Plumbing did our plumbing. Our neighbors Dave helped with labor. Shannon, Paul, and Elena all helped paint my siding. Rudy helped with our finishing. And everyone that walked by commented that it was going to be worth it, and they were right. Canoe is a community who does the work, and we've done our homework. The answer is clear. We want density, and so do you. We want affordable options that address housing on a continuum, as do you. And we want a higher tax base so that the city is prepared for service and infrastructure upgrades, just like you. During the election campaign, your worship shared endorsements from a variety of people. Mike Casely from Tumbler Ridge commented that Alan's input and expertise, particularly within the areas of municipal budgets, communications, and long-term planning, displays sound judgments and an ability to analyze complex situations. We have no doubt that those skills will be shown again for this decision that is so critical to Canoe's future. Tonight, all 220 Canoe residents who have signed our petition, as well as dozens more who are not from Canoe, place their trust in you to do the things that we admire, to make the hard decisions, to look at our long-term needs, to be financially responsible, and to help us grow. Thank you for hearing us and for serving us as you do.
Thank you, Crystal. Is there any questions from council for Crystal? Not at this time. Thank you very much. Please come forward if you would like to speak.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk. I'm really nervous. I hate speaking.
That's okay. Just take a breath and just give us your name and residential address, and
Okay.
it'll be
My name is
calm.
Dina Forsyth. I live at 7141 53rd Street, Northeast Canoe. I've been asked to speak by some of the members of the Canoe community on the affordability aspects of a zoning change for this property from R4 to R6. I have over 25 years of lending experience, including mortgages, investments, and I'm currently working as a finance manager dealing with chattel property lending. The proposal before us has been presented by the developer as an affordable housing option. Defining affordable housing is an important part of every community, but it can mean different things to different people. It's helpful to explore factors that may influence it. My job is to make a true and clear comparison of financing availability on the current R4 zoning versus the proposed R6 zoning and the long-term outcomes of both. Rather than just drawing on my own experience as a lender, I decided to go a step further and consult with 3 mortgage brokers that have no vested interest on the outcome of this proposal, as well as the banks directly. Based on the information I gathered, I will address the aspects of the current and future affordability of this proposal to the best of my knowledge. I'll start with the existing R4 zoning. Please note, as this zoning depicts real property, it is viewed as an appreciating asset which qualifies for traditional mortgage lending. Traditional mortgage lending offers CMHC insurance and fees only if you have less than 20% down. Any home equity allows for a refinancing option, longer amortizations with banks, lower interest rates with the banks, a larger spectrum of lenders available, and fewer requirements for approval and greater flexibility. For addressing the R6 zoning for a mobile home park, my research revealed that it is viewed by the majority of lenders as a risk-based type of lending. It is a mobile structure considered to be a chattel, similar to an RV or vehicle financing that has no land interest of any value to the bank. How much down payment is given? With the R6 chattel loans, all loan amounts are required to be CMHC insured regardless of how much down payment is given. The loan will be required to be insured for the life of the loan with no refinancing options. Some banks will not finance a mobile at all. Some banks will only do a 15 or a 20-year amortization. Some banks will only finance it if it's under 20 years of age. And if you do find the exception, which there is going to be some out there, but it is an exception, is you're generally going to be penalized with higher rates of interest. It is considered a depreciating asset as far as the bank is concerned that could depreciate faster than what the loan is repaid. In 2016, the government put in a regulation that changed how a refinance can happen, completely changing both the cost and risks for banks and credit unions. As an RBC spokesperson confirmed, that it requires all mobile homes to have a default insurance issued by CMHC, thereby prohibiting any of these units from being able to be refinanced. All banks and credit unions are now unable to refinance mobiles such as the one we're discussing in this R6 proposal. Most of the lenders I have spoke with indicated they do very little mobile home financing, as it is more complicated and it is a declining portfolio. To illustrate the lending differences between R6 and R4, I have done a comparison on properties that reflect the zoning, interest rates, and terms for each based on an affordable housing solution. For the R4 zoning comparison, I used a slightly more costly property. It's actually Imperial Heights right here in Salmon Arm. It's a newer development. I'm sure you're probably familiar with it. It's quite lovely. It's a new condominium and it qualifies for traditional mortgage financing. So these condos range from $179,000 to $289,000 with an average price of $234,000. So if you base it on that purchase price with a 5% down of $11,700, CMHC fees of $8,892, a rate based at 3.99 over a 25-year amortization, you're looking at $1,215. Condo fees on that are $156. Property taxes are $141. You're looking at a combined monthly payment of $1,512. That's very, very realistic. This is a real property and those are real, higher rates probably than what somebody with a good relationship would get, that I've used to base it on, to be generous. The R6 property is based on the developer's own statement from February 4th, 2019 city meeting referencing their Lakeland mobile home park. He stated the past sales were $125,000 to $210,000 with an average price of $165,000. Payment is, I'm calculating this payment based on an average chattel financing. This does not qualify for traditional financing. It is on a rented pad. It does not qualify for the same type of financing right off the bat. It's chattel financing. So the payment's going to be based on an average chattel financing rate and term that is most typical from available lenders, which the only two I found, I think they were 1.5 above posted prime. So you're looking at a higher rate right off the bat there, and that was only two I found. So if you've got a purchase price of $165,000, a 5% down payment of $8,250, CMHC fees of $6,270, you come up with a base rate of 5.34, which is actually a little bit better rate than what they would probably get at most places, and a 20-year amortization of $1,101, pad rent of $425, property taxes of approximately $99 because it's on the home only, for a total amount of $1,625. Based on the different rates, available amortization requirements, you can clearly see the R4 not only presents a more affordable option, but it also provides the buyer with long-term investment and ability to build home equity and resale value. I realize that the low price for a mobile home purchase appears very, very attractive. However, when all the costs are considered, it is not really presenting a true picture of actual costs and benefits to the home buyer. To give you a real-life example of what this R6 proposal could potentially look like in 10 to 20 years from now from an affordable housing option, I'd like to share my personal experience of owning a mobile home in a rented park. About 5 years ago, our daughter wanted to purchase a mobile home in a local park. We thought it was a great idea. She had a good job. She had strong credit. However, financing became an issue due to the restrictions and options available to a 20-year-old mobile home. So the bank of mom and dad kicked in. We agreed to help and lent her the money on terms that she could afford, and in addition to her monthly pad rental, to make it all happen for her, because nobody would lend to her because the trailer was 20 years old. It was actually just slightly under 20 years old. Then a year and a half ago, she found a home in Canoe Creek Estates. As this was considered a real property with land ownership, she was quickly approved for a traditional mortgage with a 25-year amortization and 2.49% interest rate, making it more affordable monthly payment and a good long-term investment for her. So her payment actually dropped when she went from one to the other. So she's a single mom. She works in the school district. And I mean, this was a huge, very positive step for her making this change. In order to make this purchase happen, we needed to sell this mobile home in the rental park. And in order to sell it, we had to first have it all recertified. That cost me $3,500 right off the bat. And then once we did get it recertified, then we had to look for a buyer. That was extremely difficult because none of them qualified for financing due to the restrictions. This is real. This is very, very, very real, for this. So to summarize, as written on the website of the City of Salmon Arm, it reads as such. At the basic level, zoning bylaws are used by the local government to regulate land use and the density and ensure an orderly subdivision and develop the land to promote public safety and protect property values. I feel that it is our obligation when considering affordable housing to create long-term sustainability for the purchaser, as well as to have a very clear vision on the impact that it's going to have on our community at large. The rezoning application before us has been presented as affordable housing. However, based on my research, my personal experience, I do not recommend that we change the zoning on this property to R6. It is a short-term solution and will not serve our long-term community needs. I would also like it to be noted by Mayor and Council that all the information that I have gathered is from professional parties, that no direct personal or financial gain from this proposed rezoning of the property on Canoe Beach Drive. It's 100% independent. We do have faith in you that you will make the best long-term decision for Salmon Arm and Canoe. We would like to encourage you to work with us to help enhance our amazing community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. Do any councillors have questions for Dina at this time? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Please come forward if you'd like to speak.
Brian Browning.
Welcome, Brian. Could you just give us your address? Oh, you're going to do that.
4821 71st Avenue Northeast, Salmon Arm.
Perfect. Good evening to you.
Kerry kind of took the gist of most of what I was going to say out, provided he follows through with the variance on Lot 1 and completes the full build of Canoe Beach Drive to the RD 14 standard. So about half of what I was going to say is all moot now if he does that.
Okay, give us the other half.
I would like to say, I've followed along years ago when the city and the previous developer were working together to develop the standard for Canoe Beach Drive and to put into place the R4 zoning. All the work that was done just made sense, so there was no need to question it at that time. At the time, the developer was going to place 50 units on Lot 1 alone, with more to follow on Lot 2. Development permits were put in place and approved. The correct development, the correct use of this property. I also follow along with other zoning changes around town. I find it totally ironic that in most cases there is a fight against higher density zoning, where here we are fighting to keep the higher density. I think Canoe is buying into a new reality of this small city. I think Canoe has evolved into a progressive enclave in this small city. I think that we are prepared to wait until some developer comes along with a dream that fits our dreams. I just hope that council is prepared to wait with us. Keep the property R4 and look to the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have any questions for Brian? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation.
Yes. I was going to allude to my other letter that I had sent that isn't in the public thing, but there's no reason to read all that now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please come forward if you'd like to speak.
get my prompter set up properly. Your Worship, members of council, my name is Henry Armstrong, and I live at 4651 71st Avenue in Canoe. I apologize, we were told that our presentations would be limited to 10 minutes and no overhead, so we could have put on a little bit more professional.
We do have the ones that you sent us, so we've got them in front of us.
Thank you. I'm proud to live in Canoe. It's respectful, inclusive, and a very giving community. I'm sure you agree, Mayor, as you witnessed the organization and the turnout for last year's Christmas holiday train.
Absolutely.
And we filled our actual canoe with donations, as well as making a good cash donation to the Salmon Food Bank. Small thing, but well done for Canoe. I'm against the proposal as that has been presented, and I'd like to speak to my objections around the rezoning, specifically R4 to R6, medium density residential to mobile home park. The core of my objection is the rezoning is required to fit the project. And in my opinion, the project needs to be looked at to fit the current, as Brian was saying, to fit the current zoning. Your decisions will require changing the bylaws, specifically bylaw 2303, section 11, 11.7 and 11.5, where you will be asked to allow for a maximum density on a minimum lot size. I'd like to review some of my objections and rebuff some of the rezoning applications for 4400, 4600 Canoe Beach. It's on page 109 of the agenda. Could we show that up there? Thank you. Item number 1 is eliminating the cost of land from the homeowner. Not only does this take away from the pride of ownership, but there are serious equity and financing reasons for why this is not a good choice for homeowners, as we've just heard. Also, there are several mobile homes, Tarno is aware of this, owned by at quite close proximity to Canoe at competitive rates that homeowners actually own their own land. Why did we choose this? Items number 2 and items number 3, smaller individual parcel sizes and smaller housing footprints. I put these together as both are poor choices for the homeowners, especially those with young children. For a healthy development, a child needs green spaces, fenced-in yards, and be free to run around unsupervised. Parents are not always around, not always have the time to take them across the way and hike across the Canoe Beach. Later this evening, you will be deciding on rezoning to reduce the lot sizes and offer smaller building footprints. This, along with the lack of a healthy green spaces, in my opinion, will not attract or assist any young families. Rather, it will promote recreational buyers who will view the property as their 6-month summer cottage. Manufactured homes, finishings, and construction sequencing. Most of Canoe is built on manufactured homes. It's a good product. With the proper zoning, the proper land ownership, and currently and the current zoning that exists in the footprint of Canoe, this is a good choice. This product is an affordable investment for upsizing or downsizing. We have no objection to mobile homes, manufactured homes. On top of these rezoning changes, there are also variances. I already stated that in my opinion, they are trying to fit a square hole into a round peg. The solution, as Kerry was saying, part of the solution is the land costs. How do we reduce, or how do we eliminate the land costs from first-time buyers? We offer them truly affordable starter homes. We already had the answer, but unfortunately, this answer came, it was the right project and it was at the wrong time. If we look at the PDF that I sent in for Canoe 1, Lakeview Villas, site point, this proposal came just as our economy went into recession. People in Canoe were actually losing their mortgages due to repossession. However, this type of proposal, this is the type of proposal that we should be promoting for this site. This proposal fit the current R4 zoning. It provided for large amounts of green space and large setbacks. Every unit had a garage and and had additional parking. Site density was up to 59, however, only 50 units were proposed. It also offered the city continuation of 45th Street and upgrades to Canoe Beach, similar to the present, as well as many other benefits such as large tax base and future service upgrades. This proposal truly fit the overall need and offered a lower cost housing to a variety of potential buyers. If you look at the PDF on Canoe 2, you'll see a site profile. This proposal was similar to the Copper View Corner currently being built across from the RCMP station in Salmon. This project was accepted by council, was well accepted in Canoe, could be offered to potential developers for both lots. But as Alan was saying, it was for one lot only at that time. Like Kerry, I went around to a few of my friends when this was going to happen. I live on 71st, there's a development up the hill. People were moving in from Prince George and they had built a home because they couldn't find something like the townhouse development that's in front of you. They ended up building on 71st, and then when I showed them this proposal with the townhomes, they loved it. They thought this is exactly what we wanted. We would buy one of these. The builder who built that house loved Canoe so much, he built a starter home, and he said he's looking to move out of his home and buy an upgrade to a different home. There's lots of movement. The one thing we're missing in Canoe is the medium density townhouse development that's in front of us there. Beware the with respect, I would ask the worship, and through you to the councillors, beware the temptation to give up the things that we want the most for the things that we want now. Thank you for your time this evening and for allowing me to have my say. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Is there questions for Mr. Armstrong at this time? Thank you very much for your presentation. Please come forward if you'd like to speak.
My name is Terry Michael. I live at 7291 51st Street Northeast. And I really just have a question or clarification if that variance has been waived. Has it been waived from getting the 20 meters to the 25, or has it been waived that there's curb and gutter, or is there still going to be the pathway with a ditch between the pathway and the Canoe Beach Drive?
I'll ask our Chief Administrative Officer to answer that question for you.
Your worship, so this application has evolved a bit since it first came to council a couple weeks ago. And you may have heard Mr. Tarno say this evening that they now plan to complete the improvements along Canoe Beach Drive. The application up until now had involved a variance to waive that requirement, and the developer is now saying that they're going to in fact complete Canoe Beach Drive to the standard. So I think that's relevant to mention now during this public hearing, and we'll also mention it again during the variance later on this evening.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Terry?
So that means there will be curb and gutter?
Do you want, maybe the Director of Development Services could just talk about standard? I think that's what Mr. Michaels is wondering about.
Your worship, when I met with the youth council at the high school last week, Terry was in the class and he asked a question, will there be a ditch? And my recollection of the cross section was there is a ditch, but that was 2 designs ago during the townhouse development proposal. And then I found out that there is no ditch, curb and gutter. So I wanted to get back to you last week to clarify that, but you were subbing, so I wasn't sure if you were there.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Please come forward if you'd like to speak.
Hugh Chalmers, 4951 75th Avenue Northeast.
Good evening, Hugh. Nice to see you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. And thank you for the opportunity to speak on the rezoning of 4400 and 4600 Canoe Beach Drive. With full disclosure, I have owned a mobile home, I've owned a manufactured home, and I've owned a stick-built home. Each has a place. The project is a great project in the wrong location. The applicants agree with that, with some 8 variances requested. And it's nice that we eliminated the big one with the sidewalk upgrade, but there's still issues left. And I guess I might start with being threatened that if we don't approve this, it'll be 50 years until something happens. That's poking the bear of Canoe. We're not going back to hibernation. The lot size reduction might be acceptable to retirees, but it does not fit young families. The no recreational area, several presentations were made to council. In the last Canoe meeting when council was out, to upgrades for the Jackson Park due to the high usage. With the inclusion of this proposal, we will need more park space. The suggestions to use the ballpark area built for children attending ball games would have an area to keep them occupied was not a size for community replacement. The Canoe Beach as a replacement for the project is too far, crossing the road. Young people cannot go on their own. The suggestion of reducing the corner parking area, it is my experience living in trailer parks, this area is always too small. This is where the boats, RVs, snowmobiles, and all the other goods go. The affordable housing commentary by all political stripes at 3 levels of government has made this the #1 issue. I have yet to find a definition of what affordable housing is. Green Emeralds builds housing north of $1 million. They sell, so they're affordable, albeit to a lower percentage of the population. I believe that we have a stratified market priced housing up to $1 million and subsidized housing. This project, by all of the variations that's requested, is asking the taxpayers of Salmon Arm to subsidize it. I respectfully request that you vote against this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. Are there any questions for Mr. Chalmers? Thank you for your presentation. Please come forward if you would like to speak.
I would like to say something.
Please come forward to the microphone.
Grab the railing here. I have a really short
We've got lots of time. Just
My
wait till you
name
get to the
is
microphone.
York.
We're not in a rush at all.
I am Judy York, and I'm a retired teacher, 72nd Avenue, Northeast Canoe.
Thank you.
I've lived in Canoe since '06. Proud member of Canoe. And hello, everyone.
Don't you speak to me, please.
So nice to
Mrs.
see
Rourke, you need to speak to me.
Yes, I absolutely will. And I'm just so happy to be here tonight. And I want to say that I am a proponent of this new development. I think that it will offer affordable housing to people who so much desire to live in this most beautiful area of our province. And I see homes and people coming in all the time, and they're looking for beaches and they're looking for great places to live and raise their families. Why should they not have the opportunity to live in this beautiful community? Like we have, I'm just like, you take the first left off from the church. We, everything about Canoe is wonderful. People wave at each other. I think that we can't be segregationists, or we can't say, no, we don't want this. Otherwise, we'll end up looking like Harrison Lake, where many of you have been there. And Harrison Lake in the early days was just a gorgeous little community. But now it's all condos. No one can even see the lake. But a modular home, that will give people a healthy community. They can have gardens, young and old. So I believe that it is a very good idea. That's what I want to see today.
Thank you very much for your presentation. The council have any questions for Mrs. Rourke? Okay, seeing none, please come forward if you'd like to speak.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Tanja Carlson. I'm from 6690 51st Street Northeast.
Welcome, Tanja.
Thank you. I've been a long-time home and landowner of Canoe Creek Mobile Home Park. It has been an amazing little spot for me to raise my son on my own and give me pride in ownership. It gives my son something that I can hand down to him, and he too will be a landowner someday. I'm also a small business commercial lender, so I would also like to reiterate the importance of traditional financing, and that financing, owning your own land, it also opens the door for folks to start their own businesses and use the equity in their home to purchase a business, start a business, do some of those things, as well as it's a very affordable land ownership option. So while I'm not against mobile homes, it would be nice to see land ownership. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions, council, for Ms. Carlson? Okay, thank you very much. Please come forward if you would like to speak.
Good evening. My name is Shane Mattingly, and I live at 659 Tappan Cemetery Road. I am actually new to the area, and I thought I could stay on the outskirts of this and try not to make enemies. But I thought it maybe would be a valuable...
Can I just interrupt you just for a minute? I just want to interrupt. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but we are open to all opinions here. So whatever your opinion is, it'll be respected by everyone. So this is not about making enemies. This is about making your thoughts known, and I welcome everyone else to do the same.
Okay, thank you. I've got a friend. His name is Bob. He's an older fella. He's in his 80s, and he says something pretty cool. He says, in order for this thing to work, everyone needs to be willing to be equally dissatisfied. So my wife and I, we moved here about 6 weeks ago, and we thought we would just try to find a place to live, even if it was somewhat temporary. My wife's a school teacher. We've been living overseas for about a year. And to my surprise, I thought, well, Salmon Arm, it won't be like Vernon or Kelowna. It'll probably, there'll be something available. So when we got here, we were very surprised that when you find something for rent, there's 135 people in line. So what we feel like is that there's basically an epidemic, a housing crisis. The other thing that I was thinking is, when I go to some of these places, like I went and got a coffee at Subway on my way here, and you see the folks that are working in these service industries, and they don't make a lot of money. So there's a whole class of really hardworking people who really just, to get into a $400,000 house is pretty tough. Now there are some options like condos and things like that. I'm not educating you, but it's pretty difficult to get into something. So for me, for my wife and I, we are very eager and interested in getting becoming homeowners, but we find that it's a little bit daunting. The task is daunting to try to get into a home because of the price. So everyone's already stated these things. We feel like, I especially feel like, I don't really know what other decision that the council can make other than to try to do whatever is necessary to make housing available. And when I look at this development, like I have never even been to Canoe. It sounds great. But I feel like, I don't know what council, it'd be a tough situation to be in your shoes because there's such a desperate need for housing. And you have people on both sides of the issue, but really we need housing. And there's a lot of people in line waiting. And we just don't know how much longer it's going to be. If this thing doesn't pass, then what's coming up next? So my point of view is that I feel like there needs to be a ladder so that the people that are on the bottom rung can find a way to get in to home ownership. I guess my wife and I would be in that situation. And probably one of the easiest ways for that to happen to me, from what I can see from all of this discussion, is this development seems like it would fill a need that's really almost a desperate need in the area. So that's my opinion, that's my point of view.
Thank you for your presentation. Council, do you have any questions for Shane? Okay, thank you very much. Please come forward if you would like to speak.
Good evening. My name is Renee Crapo, 7250 51st Street Northeast. I would like to speak about the real affordability and the fact that I feel that this could easily become a holiday home park, number one. Two, I think it's going to devalue our property values by putting in yet another mobile home. We have lived in Canoe for 17 years, and just like many of us here, our neighbors have taken a small, little, homely, ugly house and built it into a very nice home. And along our street, year after year, every home has tripled in value because we've put the blood, sweat, and tears into keeping our community a small community, not a transient community. And if you want to build this mobile home park and not allow any rentals, then what's to say that anybody comes out of town and buys it and leaves it, uses it for 3 months and leaves it for 9 months? You don't get any taxes on it for an unused home. You're not allowed to rent it. So then you have another dead zone. And there's no community. And we're all about community. I have a lot of friends here, and we've all helped and build each other's homes. And a mobile home on the last piece of property that is a nice piece of property when you could build townhomes that could have a studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom home. The people moving into that who are downsizing or upsizing then sell their homes and make their homes available, affordable properties. But if you put in mobile homes that depreciate on value, and the mobile home industry has gone down continuously for the last 10 years, the houses don't appreciate, so in 20 years, it's an eyesore, and it's not people who want to build into their homes. So I'm very passionate about this. I just feel that staying at an R4 will increase our tax base far higher than an R6, and people will be able to actually own their land. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Renee. I'll just see if there's any questions from council. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Please come forward if you'd like to speak. Okay, I'm going to ask a second time. If you'd like to speak, please come forward. Oh, there's 3 times. You got lots of time, Mr. Verney.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I had no plan on doing this.
Okay, just give us your name and residential address, Paul, please.
Paul Verney, can I just say Lyman Hill?
That's fine.
Just the affordability issue was very well addressed by Ms. Forsyth. So I think just the discussion around affordable housing and who needs affordable housing and should that be in Canoe is, I think that's already been well spoken to. It's in most people's here, obviously, opinion, something we don't want in Canoe. I want to rebut, the reason I got up, I just want to rebut a few of the things I heard. In regards to, in the first place, is it affordable housing for young families? There's certainly no guarantee to anyone in this room that that's going to happen. And as has already been stated, the likelihood, is it most likely that it's going to turn into something for retirees who see it as their short stop between southern vacations? It may be. That's not to say those people shouldn't have a place to do that. But do we want that to be in Canoe? Do we want to rezone Canoe for people for snowbirds? Let's put it that way. The other thing I want to rebut is, if I can remember what it was. The comment about what a beautiful community, and it wasn't just in reference to Canoe, it was in reference to the Shuswap, Salmon Arm, etc. I came here in '93, and we bought, well, we're rural, we're not actually in Canoe. I don't think the term beautiful little community ever crossed my mind when I looked at Canoe. Okay, Canoe is trailer parks and a plywood mill and a lumber mill. The lake is beautiful, granted. There's nothing, I'm not slamming it. I'm just saying that's not the reason I came here. Affordability was one, just like a lot of people, and that's a perspective that people have, affordability. I came because I cashed out, made a whack of money, luckily on real estate, as a lot of us have over the years because of where we live. We don't live in St. John, New Brunswick. We live in a high-end part of the country / continent. That's just the reality, okay? Canoe now, though, 20-odd years later, is getting to be a beautiful little community because of, like the previous speaker alluded to, all the people who've invested huge in it in redoing a significant amount of old homes, okay? And you see it, and also there's a new subdivision in Canoe of ridiculously nice homes, okay? And council, and I think where everybody's frustration is, and now council's thinking of throwing another trailer park in Canoe, we are going the opposite way, okay? Not to say that people shouldn't have this option. Should it be in Canoe? We have our share of trailers, okay? Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Verney? Thank you. Any other speakers? Please come forward.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Carmen Cron. I live at 7061 50th Street in Canoe. This rezoning request has provided the people of Canoe with a really neat opportunity, because in the last 3 weeks or so, we have been talking a lot about who we are and what we have to offer this crown jewel of the Shuswap and our beach, and who we see ourselves, how we see ourselves growing into the future. And it's against that picture that we have measured the suitability of this rezoning request. So that together, the question we've been asking is, to what extent is rezoning Canoe Beach Drive compatible with who we are? I imagine that the question on your side of the desk is maybe similar. To what extent is rezoning Canoe Beach Drive compatible with the OCP? Is it compatible with our housing shortage? And to me, I think regardless of how the question is asked, the answer is the same. It isn't. The rezoning of Canoe Beach Drive is fundamentally incompatible with how we see ourselves growing in the future. And it is, in fact, it undoes the wisdom of the OCP as it currently exists under R4. And it's our hope this evening as a community group to have presented you with enough information for you to understand how we reached that conclusion, and it is our hope that that information influences the decision that you make tonight. As I listened to the many perspectives on this issue, it's just clear how unclear it all is. Because what we've been doing as a community is weighing the gifts of this, the benefits of this, that we've been waiting for this, as compared to the deficits and the detriments of doing this. And I think one of the ways to describe that whole discernment process is that there's some really serious temptations here. And so to summarize the things that we've said, I'm going to couch it in those terms, in terms of temptation. I think temptation number one is that we have an undeniable housing shortage in Salmon Arm. And we have a developer who is prepared to provide us with 60 houses for the market. Wow, that's tempting. And it would be tempting to remove every barrier and every obstacle just to let them do that, because we have this undeniable need. But something that's perhaps a little closer to the truth is understanding the purpose of zoning, and several have alluded to it here. The purpose of zoning is to ensure that there is a fair distribution of housing options across the continuum. And so with no regulatory influence, there's nothing preventing Tarno from selling 60 of their most expensive units to people from other areas, and thus providing nothing to our market. The formula is actually really simple when you think about density. Density equals supply. And when we have supply, when you actually have houses to choose from, it drives down prices. So it's an indirect way of creating affordability. And several people have alluded to this. Someone said, give us the opportunity to climb the ladder, which is an unfortunate image in terms of hierarchy, but nevertheless, that when people buy houses zoned in R4, it frees up other houses in the market, including rentals, thus creating affordable options for other people wanting to enter. There's a shuffle up effect, for lack of a better phrase. The second temptation comes with a ton of compassion from the Canoe community group. And that is compassion for people who might be tempted into thinking that this is an affordable way of entering the housing market. As to understand, it's compelling. Man, if I saw this on a billboard, it's compelling. I'd go knock on the door too. Or for people like me who are transplanted professionals who would have been wildly tempted 3 years ago to buy a mobile home, even though the pad was rented, just so that I didn't have to rent. Like, I'm almost 50 years old, and I am not interested in living in somebody's basement. I want my own space. That would be tempting. Or tempting for someone who could, like my parents, who could just like sell their house and buy this outright. They would just pay this cash. It would be awesome retirement. That's extremely tempting, and understandably so. But with the evidence shared with us by Dina Forsyth and Crystal Burgess, I think we're seeing the illusion of affordability. And I think it was to the Hillcrest people who were before you a couple of weeks ago that a comment was made from council that we need truly affordable housing, not just less expensive housing. And it is my belief that this proposal is neither of those things. It is neither more affordable nor less expensive. It is being touted as affordable. And in fact, the numbers refute some of that. The third temptation is really on us as a community of Canoe, Your Worship. Because man, is it tempting to let somebody clean up that eyesore. And I'm glad that somebody else used the word eyesore because it's actually in my notes. Like, we've got a developer who's come forward and is willing to clean it up. And not only that, but to provide us with some of the things that we have been asking for years, like connectivity and the sidewalks. And I'm grateful to hear that there's been some wiggle room on that. I was deeply concerned by the lack of wiggle room a couple of weeks ago. So it's tempting, but the more that we look at it, the more that we see our town will improve through an R4 tax base and not an R6 landlord. This is not only a small idea, I think this is a shrinking one. I think this is regressive. One after another, the variances shirk the responsibilities that are inherent to development. Carla Furster, who is owner of Frog Friendly Coffee, spoke to a developer who said that to a multi-unit builder, street costs and DCCs are not seen as an impediment. They're just a simple price of doing business. And so, as you heard from other speakers, we as a community group are willing to wait for the kind of builder that fulfills the requirements promised to us in the OCP. The final temptation is tricky. And I say this with a great amount of care. It's tempting to see this rezoning request as generosity, that we have a developer who has identified a significant need in our community and has come forward to address some of that, at least in part. I have no doubt that the developer, they're good people with a fantastic product and great intentions. And that's why I think what's most important to be heard this evening is that this isn't about a product or about people. It's about a right fit for an extraordinary piece of land. The reality is, at least with the variances in mind, is that there is more take in this application than there is give. Right from the zoning itself, that takes from our tax base. If people are thinking that this is affordable, it will take from them. This project unabashedly takes away fences and parks and pathways. And my concern is that if Tarno can't give up $425 a month to provide play space for the little children that were part of the slideshow, then what is going to happen when we encounter the surprises underground when we break ground for development? Because there will inevitably be costs that we can't see below the dirt. I'm not interested in subsidizing that. I'm interested in waiting for a developer who can do it. The developer has been provided an opportunity to be generous, to give to the community. The requester, the suggestion was given that in light of all of these variances, perhaps they could make a donation to the park fund, or however that works. And the answer was no. And that, to me, summarizes what feels like more take than give. And I don't think that's necessarily a criticism. I think it's just a poor fit. So as you move into a time of making a decision this evening, I'll just leave you with the question we asked ourselves, and that is, to what extent is rezoning Canoe Beach Drive compatible with the OCP, compatible with our housing need? And we trust you to make a wise choice. Before I conclude, I just want to say something. Why am I about to cry? It's so silly. Here's why I'm about to cry. Because Canoe cares greatly about people, about community, and about housing. And my opposition to this rezoning is in no way an opposition to the people who will become my neighbors, including the people on that slideshow. We as Canoe will welcome everyone with open arms. The work that we have done in the last 3 weeks has been a labor of love. It has amounted to advocacy and compassion and equity and public education. And to that end, we have actually had people on the fence who have come to the other side of the fence. And that, regardless of the outcome this evening, has made our work worthwhile. We will welcome our new neighbors, no matter how we live, and we look forward to your decision. But having presented this information now, we are asking you to decline this request for the rezoning. Thank you for allowing us to speak this evening.
Thank you, Carmen. Do council have any questions for Carmen? Okay, not at this time. Thank you very much. Please come forward if you'd like to speak. So if you're standing, some of our youth council, youth council's heading out, but if you're standing over here, there is some seats here now.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. John Lund, number 11, 4811, 10A Avenue, Northeast. I purchased one of these affordable housing, and the reason I did is because when I was looking for a house, I couldn't find one that would put me in the position I am now, where I could retire comfortably, and I definitely couldn't have bought a house in Salmon Arm over $400,000 because I couldn't afford it. So I bought a house from Terry down in Lakeland Mobile Home Park. And I invite anybody to come and look at my house if they're questioning if it's affordable housing. It is very affordable, and it's a great home to live in, and the park is fantastic. Neighbors are great. I've had room to build a shop in the back. I've got place to grow garden and everything else. So anyone thinking that this is not a good place to live should take another look at what modular home parks look like now. They're not mobile. If you try to move them, they're not going to move very good. They're better. Once they're set there, that's where they're going to stay. My home increased in value on my assessment by $50,000 this year, and I only bought it a year ago. So I don't think they depreciate in value. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Do we have any questions for John? Thank you very much. Other speakers are invited to come forward. So I've called for a second time. I want to make sure everyone that wants to speak has an opportunity to. So please, if you want to speak, come forward. Thank you.
My name is Tom Arrowsmith. My address is 3141 Okanagan Avenue Northeast. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm very pleased to be here tonight to speak to you. And if it wasn't for mobile homes in parks, I would not be here tonight to speak to you because I wouldn't be living in Salmon Arm. 4 years ago, I graduated from Okanagan College in Kelowna with an honors degree in Bachelor's of Business Administration. And I didn't have any plans to move back here. I wasn't in a position to buy a home. I couldn't find a rental for my fiance as well as my dog. And any rentals that were available were out of our price range and wouldn't accept pets. Upon looking, I did end up purchasing a mobile home. We had our own individual fenced yard. We had 3 bedrooms, a beautiful house, and we accomplished that with 5% down on a 25-year amortization. Not only that, we sold 2 years later. Our home appreciated in value by approximately 25%, and by the combination of the amount of money we saved through our low cost of living for the 3 years that we lived there, as well as the amount that we appreciate in value, we are just about to apply for final occupancy on a brand new home that we have built over the last year, and are expecting our very first baby that at the end of April, so that we can start to build our family there. I can say without a doubt that we would not be in that position today if we hadn't purchased the mobile home in the park. It was a great community, just a great place to live. I also wanted to take this opportunity to address some of the points that were made by some of the previous speakers. Being a mortgage broker, I am in the housing industry. I see it day in and day out. Nobody ever comes to us and says, wow, this home is so affordable, I have to buy it. It's, can we find a way to make this work? And because of that, I think that I have a little bit of knowledge into some of the items that have been brought up. The first is amongst the chattel mortgages. They are not the same as vehicle loans. Chattel is a term used in the way that the mortgage is registered. It's done through a PPSA registration, which is a chattel on something that is a movable object, instead of being a conventional mortgage, which is registered through land titles. The underwriting process is the same as qualifying for a regular mortgage. It's a 25-year amortization, 5% down. Where you do see limited amortizations is based on older mobile homes, which, as Carrie has pointed out, they've come leaps and bounds since those days. Prior to 1995, mobile homes were optional for CSA approval, which means you didn't know what you were getting in the construction, and there were cheap homes that were built. We've seen that before. Some municipalities have brought in building codes where there's been homes that need to be torn down because they weren't up to current standards. It's the same that happened with mobile homes. After 1995, everything has been built with 2x6 construction, the exact same as a stick-built home. And if they're over the year 2000, they're treated the exact same as a regular home. The home I purchased was a year 2000, so it's not a brand new home, and we did it with 5% down and a 25-year amortization. So all of the responses or the testimonies about 10-year to 15-year amortizations, I've done a lot of mobile home mortgages with a lot of different lenders, and I think I can count on one hand the amount of homes that have been limited on their amortization due to the age restrictions. It's not a very common thing, and to lump every single mobile home in that, I would say is incorrect. Earlier, somebody else also spoke and said that 25% of Canoe has shown their support, that they are against the park. Myself, as well as another business partner here, actually went and canvassed the immediate area of the people that will be directly impacted by this park, namely the people that border it immediately and the people that are across the street. There's 14 homes that border the southern border of that property, and we submitted 14 letters of support to City Council of people that want to see the manufactured home community be built. Across the street, the only people that didn't want to sign the letters were people that didn't receive the package about the development permit application and the rezoning application from City Hall. They didn't have enough information to sign the actual letters, but they signed our support petition saying that they were in support as well. So everybody that we've talked to, they are heavily in favor of this. They don't want R4 zoning to go in there because all of the development that's been done up on the hill, they feel like it would be a fishbowl where the people in their backyard are looking down on them and the people on the hill are now looking down on them. I would also like to point out that the variance requests for the rezoning are largely in part due to the fact that there hasn't been any applications for new mobile home parks in over 40 years. So the bylaws haven't been updated in over 40 years. The requests for variances that Terry and Carrie have requested is to match that of R4 zoning to a great extent. And to my belief, with a very few minor modifications, this proposed park could be built under fee simple lots under an R4 development at the current density. Now, that's not going to be the case because they've determined, and other developers have determined, that it's not financially feasible to build either an R1 or an R4 development. And I'm sure you can see in the letters of support from multiple developers that are well known in the city that they have looked at this property as both R1, R4, condos, and townhomes, and financially it does not make sense based on all of the land developed cost requirements. I would also like to point out that our company has been trying to sell this property for 10 years. There aren't developers lining up to develop this property under R4. And I would also like to question if had the original developer that couldn't financially make sense to go forward with an R4 development, if they hadn't applied for a rezoning from R1 to R4, would we even be here tonight discussing this? If it was a rezoning from R1 to R6 and included higher density than what R1 would support, would there be any of the individuals behind me that would be fighting this? The original developer tried to rezone and was successful in rezoning to R4 and later discovered that it was not financially feasible. I don't think waiting another 12 years for the development and hoping that someone will come by and be able to do it is going to change anything, because we have had numerous developers look at it that cannot make sense of it. Lastly, I would like to compare the perceived loss of tax revenue. The numbers that have been compared under an R4 is based on the maximum per acre coverage of 140 units. That does not mean that 140 units would be able to fit in here. I've discussed extensively with people that are against this, and part of the feedback that we've received is that they feel that the lot sizes are too small and that people wouldn't have a large enough yard or wouldn't have a large enough area to play. Yet on the flip side, they're also arguing for higher density. I would ask, if 140 units are built in there, how much yard size can you expect, and how much green space do you expect to have if you're close to tripling the amount of units that are proposed to be in there? That's just some of my insight, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Arrowsmith. Councillor Canada, do you have a question, or was that button pressed mistakenly? Councillor Flynn.
It's related to a comment Mr. Arrowsmith made, but it was this question that I wrote down that I was going to ask staff at some point.
Can you wait?
It's timely to what was just said, and I just want to make sure that's accurate.
I feel like it's a good time.
The R4 medium density zoning that exists now, that was done site specific to a specific proposal at the time. Is that correct, staff? Because I think that's what Mr. Arrowsmith said. Even in the OCP, it was designated R1, and we rezoned it to R4.
Director of Development Services.
The property was rezoned from R1 to R4 for the 50-unit townhouse development proposal on Lot 1.
Okay.
And the idea was, if Lot 1 was built out in a reasonable time, then Lot 2 would be built.
And that's the schematic that Mr. Armstrong provided us.
Okay, so thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was accurate.
Councillor Walsh-Richmond, do you have a question for Mr. Arrowsmith?
I do, thanks. Thank you for the presentation. So when you talk about letters from the neighbors directly to the south of the property, so can you help me understand your role in this? Do you work for the developer, or?
I don't work for the developer, the proposed developer, Carrie and Terry. I'm an employee of Techmar Mortgages, and I manage Techmar Mortgage Fund.
Okay.
We are the company that has been trying to sell this property for
I see.
12 years.
So then technically you're, Techmar is the owner? I'm confused. I'm just trying to figure
It's
out.
owned by Canoe Beach Properties Limited, as well as a numbered company, and through that we have the management rights to sell the
I
property.
see. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. It's 8:43. We've been at this for an hour and 45 minutes. We're going to take a 10-minute break until 5 minutes to 9. So everyone can use the washroom. 5 to 9, we'll be back in our seats. I just want to say to council, you're aware you can't talk to anybody right now.
We can't?
You can't talk to anybody right now.
Okay.
Say there. How you doing, big guy?